To get started on today's topic, we are going to be going pretty deep into a new protocol meant to bridge the world of software today and the world of software tomorrow, where AI and agents are involved deeply in every action taken by that software. And credit to Anthropic, creators of many AI technology, including the popular model Claude Sonnet, for open sourcing and standardizing a protocol that makes a tool calling interface, among many other features, standard across a variety of different models and tools. And that standard is called the Model Context Protocol. And we'll be talking a little bit about what the Model Context Protocol, referred to as MCP, is, just at a high level. And then I want to introduce our other team members here today, along with myself. I'm Steve, the co-founders and CEO of Dylibso. We have a couple of folks here from the team who have put an immense amount of work into this cool product that we're going to talk about, mcp.run, and some demos that we've built and created for you to kind of show what the impact is, what the opportunity is, and why we're excited about it. So Ben, you want to take the opportunity to introduce yourself and then kick it off to Chris?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Ben, the CTO and also co-founder of Dylibso.
Chris was muted, unfortunately.
Sorry about that. Principal engineer at Dylibso. Pleased to meet you all.
Excellent. Well, let's dive right in. I've got some slides prepared just to kind of give a level setting and overview of what we'll be talking about today. And then we can kind of jump right into some demos and show off some cool stuff. I'm going to share my screen here. And can I get a quick confirmation that this is live broadcasted? From anybody on stage, just say something, because I'm now only showing.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. So thank you. I want to just give everybody a quick reminder, especially for the folks who are new, who maybe have come into our ecosystem at Dylibso from mcp.run. Give a little background on us. We are very friendly WebAssembly nerds or experts, however you'd like to call it. We build some really cool WebAssembly tools and technology, including projects like extensible, XTP, Chicory. These things are all components of what makes mcp.run so great, as well as some observability technology, some portability technology, and debugging and inspection tools for working with WebAssembly more effectively. We've come from a pretty diverse set of awesome software company backgrounds, companies like Cloudflare, Datadog, NPM, Red Hat, Fanatics, Rigetti, Recurly, many, many more. And we do what we do because we all deeply value open source software. We think that there are new ways to do things that we maybe weren't supposed to do in history. And we have a goal of making all software extensible. We think every bit of software should be more usable by its end users and should do more than it was designed to do. And a lot of this stuff kind of factors into that. But today, we're actually talking about something new and introducing a product called mcp.run. And some of you have maybe already tinkered with this. And mcp.run is kind of our first real established entrance into the world of AI. And we think there's a lot of very exciting things that we can now leverage thanks to the primitives we've built to bring to this very exciting new space. And we'll talk more about that right now. So what is this space? What are we talking about? What is the whole point of today's stream? Well, today is a lot about a reflection on the very impactful new introduction of the Model Context Protocol. In the end of November last year, 2024, just a couple of months ago now, Anthropic released the Model Context Protocol. And the Model Context Protocol, as they describe it, is almost like a USB-C for AI applications and software. Anything that supports USB-C, you can plug a charger or a data port in, and it will just work. We know how to connect devices and interfaces through something like USB-C. The same thing should exist for connecting an AI agent or application with another service, some other software, some code generally, whether that sits locally on my machine, in an app, or outside of my network over the internet. We interact with lots of tools daily, us as humans, and these agents and AI applications who are craving to be like us also use these tools and should be able to access them. But the problem has been that there have been large inconsistencies in the ways that the AI applications and agents need to try to use those tools. Maybe you implement your API a certain way, you use Open API or gRPC or whatever. The agent would have to understand how to make a request to that service, or maybe you share data over a local file or a Unix socket. The AI would have to understand how to access those paths to get to your software. And then bidirectionally, you'd have to be able to understand how to consume the data from an agent in terms of like function call arguments. So the inconsistencies across the agents and AIs and the tools themselves has just been too high for too long. And now, thanks to the Model Context Protocol, we've established a standard that helps coordinate intelligently between the AI agents that want to use the tools and the tools themselves, and how do they interoperate. So why are we excited about MCP? Specifically, it's providing this universal, intelligent, machine-to-machine API translation, right? So this is a layer in between the software that the agent wants to use and the agent itself to understand how to access the features and functionality of that software, and how the software can respond to requests for functionality that are made and initiated autonomously by an AI agent. And it's really able to provide a way for us to integrate any software service or software as a service with AI applications bidirectionally. Again, a large important part of this is that bidirectional aspect, where it's not just the agent trying to call into the tool, it's the tool understanding how the agent is trying to use it and how the agent wants to get data back from that tool. So just to very quickly cover one of the issues here, one of the issues with the current state of affairs is that every tool that the AI agent needs to get access to, even coordinated over the Model Context Protocol, is currently using a local transport. So say I want to install a Notion MCP server to give my Claude application the ability to search through my notes or my databases. I have to install a full native executable loaded into on my system, which effectively has access to the entire world of my local environment. And each one of the tools I add, maybe it's Notion, maybe it's WordPress, maybe it's a browser, maybe it's some just local, computation calculator code. Every single one of those currently is spawning a new process, eating up resources, over-consuming things on my machine, and having larger surface area of access than it really needs. We also have an additional remote protocol, but not many clients have implemented that. So the current way that this works is most AI applications are actually spawning up a full process when they need to talk to a tool. And there's just some resource use problems and some security risks that come along with that, which we're trying to solve. And so to improve upon that, we have instead kind of collapsed all of these tools into a single MCP server that can be connected to by an application, and then dynamically through mcp.run, load new tools into your application and give your application access to a suite of tools that you specify. And these tools can do a bunch of different things, and it can be implemented very easily using our tooling. We're not going to talk a ton about tool creation today, but hopefully that gives you a better idea of kind of like generally where we're focusing here. So to kind of add to what mcp.run provides a user, I want you to think about this as kind of like an app store, but it's not an app store made for humans to install applications. It's a store or a registry or a control plane that an agent itself can understand how to use, how to consume tools and use those tools, and for either a human or agent to provide the installation and configuration of those tools dynamically into the application for which the tool is used within. So I'm going to simplify and talk only about tool use, but there are a bunch of different dynamic properties to the Model Context Protocol, and I'd encourage you to go read about all of them. Things like resources can help bring data and other data-like things into your application, and prompts kind of giving the agent the ability to be run kind of programmatically by a server is also very impactful. Today, we're just going to talk about tools, though. And tools are super critical. I mean, tools make all AI more effective and accurate, and importantly, predictable. Like most Gen AI applications are completely probabilistic, and it's hard to predict, exactly the behavior they'll have. That's a big problem when it comes to production readiness. So AIs with tools are predictable and deterministic because they're actually executing logic and code, just like every application we're used to running today. And every AI application uses tools. This is like a pretty well understood and accepted statement. Your agent isn't really useful without tools. And but mcp.run, like, we're providing the best tools. Like, these are tools that are portable and they are secure. They can't access your whole system. They have fine-grained limitations. They can run everywhere. And we're really excited to show you a couple demos that will show off kind of what I mean by run everywhere. So I'm just going to give you an overview of what these demos will encompass. I'm first going to start showing off Claude Desktop, which has kind of been the typical usage for lots of MCP servers, because Claude Desktop itself is an MCP client, but more and more MCP clients are emerging, other places to run these tools. And then we ourselves are also releasing libraries and SDKs that will kind of speed run the adoption of MCP clients so that your agent or application doesn't have to have its own MCP client implementation. You can just use the one that we package up in the library. And Ben is going to show that off, where we've also added the support for OpenAI and their models to call MCP run tools. And that's going to be running in kind of a autonomous agent program. And then we're going to give Chris a turn to show off a very new feature we've added, which enables every MCP run tool to be executed over the remote protocol standardized by MCP, so that we can actually just run your code. It's like a serverless function effectively on mcp.run. And then lastly, hopefully we have time, a on-device native code execution local to an Android phone that Ben will run in a simulator for us. So let's jump in. I am going to start off by demonstrating a use case where I want to basically build ourselves like a blogger bot. I want an assistant who's able to ship content. And what do we do as people when we want to kind of like introduce new content? We go and do some research. We look at some kind of maybe competitive sites or some inspiration sites that are publishing high quality content, and we want to learn from that. And so what I'm doing is I'm providing a list of sources and some priorities and some tracking capabilities for a bot and agent to go out and look up recent articles and find something interesting that was published. Maybe it's a scientific breakthrough or some new capability, and write a kind of research-oriented, kind of enriched context article that's based on the premise of this original. And it should go up on our WordPress site. We use a WordPress blog. And the agent should be able to do the research, write the article. It should be able to adapt the article in its writing to some known format. So we actually have a fantastic writer on the team who introduced himself as Chris. And we want to use Chris's voice to kind of like shape the way that the article is written and to have a consistent voice across articles. So it's actually going to go and look up Chris's blog, read some of the blog posts there, adapt its new writing style to Chris's writing style. And then at the end of it, once it publishes the post to WordPress, it's going to track its work back here in this Notion database. This will all be a lot more clear once I show it off. So I'm just going to copy and paste this prompt into Claude and fire away. You'll notice that I already have a bunch of tools installed, which are all coming from mcp.run. Claude is going to ask me for permission to run things as a security check. And you'll notice that it slows things down a lot. With every step, it's going to say, hey, I'm going to search your Notion for the database. And once it finds the database, it's going to query the database to find the information in it. So it has found the database. It's now going to look up one of those sources. It's found that the Physics APS journal is a good source, has high priority, and needs a new blog post. So it's going to go and find a blog post on the Physics journal, and it's going to adapt its understanding of how to write an article to Chris's voice in his blog. It's going to fetch an article from Chris's blog to use as inspiration to write this new article. It's now finally writing the new article, and it's just decided to write something about a breakthrough in quantum error correction. Very important. I'm manually approving all of these tools to be run. And one of the cool things that you'll see in the next demo is that when an agent is running, it's able to execute these operations much more quickly. We should be able to give it the permission to just say, hey, run all these things. I trust you. I've given access to these tools. It's now published the post to WordPress, and it has gone back to Notion to update the database with the URL so that I can keep an eye on that and say, hey, you know what, good job. You have completed the task. So let's go through here, and we've seen now the URL has been added to the table, and we'll go visit it. And sure enough, we now have our full post here provided to us by Claude. So that was pretty cool. I want to kick it over to Ben, who is going to show you an integration in a more kind of agentic operation mode, where the agent itself is going to talk to a different model and run this same operation once again. We'll just wait for Ben to join.
Can you guys hear me okay? Can you see my screen?
Coming through loud and clear, and the screen is live.
Okay, great. Yeah, stop me if the screen's not working. Yeah, so as Steve was talking about earlier, portability of tools is really important to us. And that's like kind of just one dimension of portability that we've achieved. So what he had shown was, we have all our MCP servers that they all used to be in their own little process and all separate. And we were able to kind of pack those into one mcpx server and connect that to Claude over the MCP protocol. So Claude is the MCP client, and then mcpx is our server. So what if you're not using Claude? What if you're not using Claude Desktop? What if you're in an environment where you can't even spin up this mcpx server? What if your environment doesn't support MCP at all? So what we've been able to do is basically not only are the tools portable, but the library itself is portable. So mcpx itself, we're able to just basically package it up into a library and just move it right into your application. And the benefit of this is that this just allows us to run mcpx everywhere. It also means that you don't need to wait for full MCP support. You can just kind of connect this now. So I'm switching over to terminal now. And what I'm going to show is an OpenAI library that we wrote for mcpx. And it's just a standard node npm library. You just pull it down. Again, this does nothing special. It spins up no processes. It does nothing like that. It all just happens in nice little WebAssembly sandboxes and connects up to mcp.run. And I have a similar prompt to Steve. I actually forgot to add in the Chris inspiration thing, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to imitate Chris's style, actually, so I think it's fine. But what I'm going to do is just run this now as a normal node program. So I'm logged in as Steve, and you should see it's going to go through probably a pretty similar, but maybe slightly different process because it's a different model. But what it's doing is it's looking for sources. It seems to really want to read the physics source because that's a high priority. And it seems like it found an article. So now it's probably reading it and formulating an article. And yeah, so now it's creating a WordPress site, and look, it published it. So that just shows how the mcpx itself is also portable, and it can just be packaged up to a library, shipped right into your AI application. It could run in the browser, on a server, or as we'll see later, even on a phone. But yeah, that's it.
Chris, if you want to jump on,
take over, or Chris,
yeah, the remote connection.
Let me share my screen here. Okay. So yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ben. So you should be seeing my content and inspiration sources Notion database here. So we've seen mcpx run servlets for different hosts in a single process, and now I'd like to show you mcpx running servlets in different locations. So a bit about that. MCP is a layered protocol. So it's implemented in terms of JSON RPC running over a transport. By far the most popular transport these days is standard I/O, where the host application spins up an MCP server and then talks to it over like input and output. But there's been a lot of interest in hosting MCP servers remotely, and in particular using a transport powered by HTTP server send events. This is part of the standard package of Model Context Protocol's TypeScript SDK. So I'm excited to give you a preview of this transport working on mcp.run via mcpx today. So this is my mcp.run profile. As you can see, I have far fewer tools installed than Steve. I just have Wolfram Alpha and Fetch. However, earlier, Steve shared access to his profile, his mcp.run profile with me for use with remote access. And I've configured my mcpx to use it. So this gives me access to the Notion database. So I'm going to rerun this demo. As you can see, I'm going to use the same exact prompt. We'll hit enter here. We see we have 48 tools available, including these Notion tools. Sometimes Claude needs a little prompting. All right. So as you can see, we're going through the allow and protocol here. So here, this is my mcpx client actually calling out to mcp.run, and we're actually running all of the Notion portions of this up on our mcp.run infrastructure. So I want to note also that Fetch is actually not running remotely. So that we have a mix of tools that are running locally on my computer and remotely on mcp.run. So while this kind of continues, you've seen the articles it produces. I just want to call out that the interesting thing here is that Steve can let me use Claude to access his database without giving me or Claude any of his access credentials. And I can mix that with my own tools and use that to produce new blog posts or access company resources, etc. I think this is a really powerful combination. I'm excited to see what you all build with it. And I think now we should have updated the Notion document. And indeed, we have another Notion document, WordPress blog. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. There we go. Back over to you, Steve.
Yeah, that was awesome. So just to quickly recap, because I know it's a little bit hard to see kind of what was actually happening when we're talking about like remote access or local access. What Chris is referring to is the server sent events version of the transport, and SSE transport allows for a client to make a call to a server that's remotely hosted somewhere over the internet or over a network. And that means that the code doesn't actually have to be run locally next to the AI agent or application. And for some cases, it's very beneficial to have all that code running in some other environment hosted over a network. And in some cases, it's really useful to have tools running locally next to the AI. You can envision like a banking app on your phone. You don't really want to give every tool access to your full list of bank statements or financial information. Think about your health data on your device. You don't need to give all that stuff out to any service on the internet. Instead, you do still want to run tools locally. And then for any purpose, you're going to want to run tools locally for the pure performance benefit. I can execute code right next to me very, very quickly. And as a demonstration of that, we're going to kick it back over to Ben once more to show off some pure magic here, if I must say.
Thank you. You guys can see my Android Studio here and hear me. Am I good?
Yep, you're good, Ben.
Okay, good. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for allowing me to do the one more thing. I should have worn my black turtleneck today, but I'm honored to present this this teaser of something we're releasing tomorrow. And I want to say, like, all this work was done by our staff research engineer, Eduardo Vacchi. So thank you to him. But what I'm going to show you is basically we're going to see a demo of using mcp.run tools directly from Android. And this doesn't use the SSE protocol. This actually pulls down the tools and runs them on device. And we're able to do this through a couple of means. One is our own Java or JVM native runtime called Chicory. And this is a Java native runtime for running WebAssembly. And also Eduardo was able to port much of mcpx to run in that environment. So what this is he's kind of just hard-coded a prompt here. And this uses Gemini, so it's a fully multimodal demo. And what he's saying is, I would like to visit the place in the first picture and then see the painting in the second picture. And then he asks for kind of directions and some kind of tips on the trip. So what it should be able to do is sort of identify that's the Eiffel Tower and then basically use a few tools to create a little itinerary. So you can see it's not really visual right now, so we just see in the logs that it's talking to search, and it's asking some questions from Google Maps and probably fetching some content. And it should be putting together a little itinerary now and directions. Still, this is like hot off the press, so it's still taking a little bit of time to finish. Okay, we seem to be stuck. Yeah, as I said, all this stuff really just came together in the past few days, so give us a little patience here. So it's, yeah, invoking maps, it's doing searches. And yeah, Gemini is really interesting, being able to do this multimodal stuff. I think it'll be really interesting to see what we can kind of come up with tool use here. I think we may be stuck. I might have hit some kind of limit or something here. So yeah, sorry, this might be, oh, there it goes. Okay, yeah, so it's giving us directions from Google Maps. It's searched some information on these things and on the Louvre and on the Eiffel Tower and told us about how to get tour guides and everything. So yeah, it worked. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
That's super cool. And the lab demos are always a little challenging, so bear with us and thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
One thing I don't want
this really just came together. It was really, really amazing work by Eduardo.
Seriously, I don't know of any other demonstration of running tools locally on device. The power of our own Java runtime, Chicory enables this, and there's just so much more to it that is just awesome. So great work all around. I want to draw attention to something though, which is really unique about mcp.run and the fact that we're using WebAssembly to deploy the server, the servlet code that runs inside the MCP connection. And that is the ability to like constrain it to resource access that you may otherwise not have the ability to limit what domain names that web search can make, what file paths on disk the code can access, or what like access to secrets or configuration values. So all of this stuff is configurable and completely locked down and limited by default inside the mcp.run servlet. When you install it, you have to give it and grant it these permissions that are requested by the servlet publisher. So if the thing needs to talk to Notion's API, it's going to need access to the notion.com domain. If it needs to make a web request to Google Maps, it's going to need to have permission to access the Google Maps API endpoints. And that is just kind of an out-of-the-box feature that we get because we've built these things targeting WebAssembly. which by default has an incredible security posture for deny by default resource access requests, and you need to give it permission to do the things that it wants to carry out. So that was awesome. Thank you so much for the demos. We're really excited about this. We have a couple of comments that I want to quickly acknowledge and try to answer. We have a question from Soren on the chat. Thank you for the question, Soren. Good to see you. You mentioned it being worthwhile to talk briefly about like the prompts and kind of the registered servers that are involved in the prompts. And that's a great point. There's a lot to cover here, so sorry it was glossed over a little bit. Let me start with the profile that I'm using and show you what's installed. And I can access my profile, and you can see that these are individual servlets that have been installed and configured. So one of those is Notion. You can see, as I was alluding to, that we have to give these servlets access specifically to reach out to resources, file systems or networks in order to retrieve more information or mutate, write to a file or make a mutating request to some service. So in this case, it needs a Notion token and it needs to talk to any subdomain of notion.com. So I've installed this and it's become available automatically to my client, whatever is asking for tools from mcp.run. And along with Notion, we use this WordPress tool, and you can see its documentation and then kind of a nice little page here describing the tool and what it can do, what functions it has available and what the interfaces to those functions are, as well as Fetch, which I don't have up, but I can bring it up really quickly, which is kind of a generically useful URL grabber. It can pull down a link or in text, convert that text to Markdown for consumption by the model, or also can pull down an image and it will convert it to base64, which is very convenient because all binary data represented inside the MCP transports must be represented in base64. So just some really convenient things. These tools have been installed and made available to my profile. And then when I instantiate my profile inside of either Claude by running the mcpx server or by instantiating a connection using like the OpenAI mcpx node library and the Java one, which we'll release tomorrow, all of these tools get loaded by associating to my session ID. So Soren, hopefully that covers enough with regard to your questions. Please keep them coming. I do want to just follow up now kind of with like what's next, like where are we going with this, why, and how it could affect you. And we've got a kind of a high level roadmap, things that are in progress now and things that we would love to hear from the community and folks like yourselves watching today. So coming up in the immediate future, we will be talking about private organizations. This would be more for kind of an enterprise user or a team who wants to share servlets and install those servlets to a profile that everybody has access to. And by everybody, I mean the people you have given fine-grained access to specifically within that team. So very much like an NPM organization or a GitHub organization, just a way to conveniently share configured and installed servlets so that nobody has to individually wrangle all their own profiles and share keys across random password things. Just a more convenient way for private organizations to collectively share access to private servlets that only they want access to. Something like an intelligent AI access optimization pattern. So for SaaS apps and APIs, you're going to need to protect and secure endpoints. We all know this. Agents and AI can use your tool substantially faster, with more throughput, and potentially, with hallucinations. And they're going to try endpoints that may not exist. They're going to do things that you don't expect them to do. That's just a fact of life, at least for the near term. And so we will be providing a suite of tools to make sure that your app is not only discoverable and usable by agents, like through the protocol, but it is protected from abuse, even accidental abuse by AIs, which we know can run up pretty quickly the numbers of requests and manufacture data payloads that don't make sense and all kinds of stuff like that. So if you're looking to bring your application or API into agents and the world of AI applications, please reach out and we can kind of fast track you for our optimization product. We also want to have an automatic SaaS API translation support. So if you have an existing API that is maybe Open API spec or something similar, we'll provide a mechanical translation for you. So you can deploy that basically as a wrapper through mcp.run, and now automatically AIs will be able to access your MCP compatible API layer translated through mcp.run. And then we're also just super eager to hear your ideas. This is as much of a kind of community effort. mcp.run is for everybody. We want to make sure it's as useful as it can be to everybody. So as we build for what we think is the future of software, this bi-directional interface for AIs and applications to interop, we need your input, and we want to build things that are helpful for you. So please reach out and let us know. Take this as my plea, my ask, to reach out to us either through Discord, through email, through Twitter. There's all these links on the docs site for mcp.run, and we'd be very, very happy to hear from you. So that's all I have for you today. If Ben or Chris have anything else they wanted to mention, please jump back on stage and take it away. Thumbs up means we're good to go. Otherwise, love it. Fantastic. Well, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. This will be recorded and available on YouTube. We will publish that as soon as the video is ready. So please feel free to follow on and comment there or reach out, like I mentioned, directly. We're very excited to hear from you. We're very excited about MCP. We're very thankful for the fantastic work that Anthropic and the rest of the ecosystem has put into this already. So keep it up. And I want to mention that we are also hosting a hackathon in San Francisco and remotely. Recently, we've added a remote option so that if you would like to learn more about MCP from a kind of a developer perspective, if you want to get your hands dirty and implement a servlet and push it to mcp.run, if you want to implement a client and connect to tools and bring tools into your application in a new and intriguing way, we'll be there in person and helping folks remotely. The details are up on a Luma event, which we can share a link in the chat. And you can also find this if you just go to the docs site of mcp.run or anywhere on Twitter and elsewhere where you're finding information from us. But that's on January 16th, Thursday next week, starting at 5:30 or so in the evening in downtown San Francisco, or remotely via the internet. Once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. We're excited. Please reach out and we're happy to help you get started. Talk to you all soon.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, y'all.